If I believe there's a reason for this pain I'm going through, if I believe that leaving me was all that you could do, if I believe that I can feel you by my side, I'll make it through the night. If I believe that time will teach me how to find my way, if I believe that broken hearts grow stronger every day, if I believe that now you're dancing across the sky, I just might get by. If I believe that memories won't always hurt this much, if I believe that I will see your face again, I can wait till then.
Hello, welcome to the Somerville Overcoming Addiction show. Tonight, I have a guest. His name is Steve. Stephen?
Steve.
Dalrymple.
Yep, there you go.
There you go. I got it right.
Yeah.
Can you say my last name?
Nope.
All right. I've met Steve not too long ago because we're both Lions. Steve is a part of the Medford Lions Club, and I'm now the president of the Somerville Lions Club.
I used to be part of the Somerville Club.
Really?
I used to be vice president. And then I was asked to go over to Medford to be president because the president of the Medford Club was dropping out. So that's how I got to be president over there.
And now, you've been there for how long?
Been Lions since '07. I think I went there about 2011, and now they got me back as president again.
See that? Everything sometimes...
It was a circle.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
And so we did talk one day, and he was telling me how he was in recovery, so it was very appropriate to have him come on the show and tell his story. So what would you like to start with?
Well, I can give you the short version or the long version.
Oh, the long version. We got an hour.
We got an hour to kill. Well, usually what I tell everybody is my first drink was when I was about 4 years old in North Carolina. My grandfather had a moonshine till in his barn, and my cousins and my uncles, we used to all go in there and hang out, and they'd all drink and stuff. But then my grandfather put a basket up and put it on the beam going across the barn. So it was, so I was the light one, so they made me, at 4 years old, crawl across it and get the bottle and bring it back to them, and I always got the first sip, so, and it was moonshine, so, like, the first sip was really nasty, but after the second or third little one, it was kind of like, it was like water after a while, but, so that was my first introduction to it.
My God,
And then,
4 years old, imagine that.
Yeah. And then when I got to be about 8, 9 years old, my mother decided that I should go live with my father, who lived up here in Somerville at the time on Walnut Street. So I went with him. He come down and picked me up with my uncle, and we drove back up here with my grandmother and stuff. And I found out what resentment meant, because my father went in to tell my stepmother that my son's outside the door, and she never knew he had a son. And meanwhile, she come out and was like, "Who are you?" And I'm like, "I don't know." So that didn't hit off. It was a long 7 years that I used to go, and my stepmother was very abusive, and I was always the blunt of all the abuse. But I found out that my father had alcohol in the house, so I used to sip the alcohol, and because he used a cabinet, and I'd go in and take a couple of sips just to get rid of the pain. I started finding out that alcohol would get rid of the pain after a while. But the bottles started getting a little bit lower and lower, and I'd put a little water in them and stuff like that. And then my father realized that somehow the booze was getting watered down. And of course, I denied it. I don't know what you're talking about, whatever. And this is like, 10, 11 years old at the time. And then we moved to California for a couple of years, and things just got really even worse. And my father had, the alcohol and stuff, but by that time, I had people across the street would drink and party. So I'd go, 12 years, I'd go over and party with them a little bit and get some alcohol from them. And then about 14, my stepmother, well, my father put me on punishment, the old days, they make you stay in your room or something like that. Well, I was in my room for 6 months after school, this and that. My stepmother.
What did you do for 6 months?
Well, my stepmother kept saying I got home late, so my father would add another day, and I didn't clean the pool right when I got home, so that would add another day. It was just always something that I did, because I had a few drinks here and there, so before I got home, so I could just be at home, you know what I mean? So, and that just, I never thought about what it was really doing to me at the time. All I know is I could cope with whatever she did, you know what I mean? That's how I looked at it. So when I got to be 14, one day, I come home, I was late. She goes, "Oh, you got to clean the bathroom." And I said, "All right," because I used to do like all the chores around the house. I had 3 stepbrothers, and whatever they did wrong or whatever mess they made or whatever, I was the one that got accused of it, and I was the one that had to clean it up. So when I got to be 14, my mother come in the bathroom and said, "You're going to clean the bathroom today." And she gives me a toothbrush, and I said, "What am I going to do with this?" She goes, "You're going to clean the bathroom just like you do in the military." And I was like, "No, I'm not cleaning the bathroom with a toothbrush." We got into a bit of a fight, and I ended up knocking her out, and I walked out of the house. And then it took my father 2 weeks to find me, 2 houses around the corner at my friend's house. And the only reason why he found me is because I called my grandmother up, and my friend drank beers, so we always had beers every day. His father would buy them for him, his brother would. So we were always partying all the time. So, and finally, I called my grandmother up, telling her I wanted to come back to Massachusetts, and my uncle told me if I ever did, let him know. So, so of course, well, the next day I had an airline ticket to come back to Massachusetts. So when I come back to Massachusetts with my uncle, he met me at the airport, and the first thing we did was go to Magoon Square, and more alcohol, more party, and my uncle had connections in the city, so we had a lot of, I could go any bar room in the city and just meant to say I'm waiting for my uncle. And we had one favorite bar we always stayed at. It was Danny's. They're closed now, but he liked me, the owner, and I could get whatever I wanted to drink and wait for my uncle to show up. And the bar fight started when I was like that, around that age, and that went on for a few years. And I got into some, I had some pretty good charges here and there growing up as a, kid till I got to be like 16, 17, and I got my license. But the partying just got worse and worse. And me not knowing or whatever, I just thought it was part of life because that's what we all did. Everybody did the same thing back in the mid 70s and stuff like that. So in the late 70s. So I just kept going, and then I moved out of my uncle's house when I was around 18. So at 18, I've been on my own ever since. But I started getting into the drugs and stuff like that because I was on my own and had my own little room up on Liberty Ave. I rented a room on the 3rd floor and shared the rest of the with another guy that was a drunk. So he always had beer in the refrigerator. So it seemed like every place I went, there was always alcohol. But it's just, back then, I thought that was part of my living. I thought that was part of my life, the way it should be. So when I got to be around 20, 21, I met this girl. She was a waitress at a bar in Davis Square, and she worked all the after-hour joints at night, bartending or waitressing. So we ended up getting married at 21, and we had a great time. I'd be out till 4 or 5 in the morning at these after-hour places, and I'd end up going to work at like 6, 7 o'clock, and I come home, take a nap, and the same thing would start all over again, And then about 81, I decided to start my own business, and then I got into the coke. That came into play. I started having a lot of money. I started, doing the coke, and I could drink more. I could stay up later. I didn't have to sleep as much, and so finally we had a child, and it was like a big responsibility, but that didn't change the way we partied, and when I look at it now, I'd say, gee, that should have been a wake up there, but it really wasn't. And then through my 20s, I slowed down a bit, but kind of backed off on the coke and stuff. But it was every now and a blue moon. But the drinking was always there. I really loved Southern Comfort on the rocks, and so I'd always drink that all the time. That was my favorite drink. And I remember we got a divorce when I was around 24, and she didn't want me seeing the kid anymore, and we had a big fight in the courtroom, and the judge made me see a psychiatrist because he said I had problems, and I went to see the psychiatrist, and all I could do was kind of laugh at her, because she was just like this big lady with a pair of glasses and trying to tell me that I couldn't see my kid because I had an attitude problem. And I'm like, you're taking my kid away. We got into an argument, and it didn't go over well. So, but to me, I just went to the bar and drank again. That's what it was about. That's how I got rid of my problems, was drinking. And then, marijuana, smoking that, it's got to be pretty bad. And then I met another girl, and we stayed together for about 4 or 5 years, and it was a great relationship. We went a lot of places, and we partied a lot and stuff like that. And finally, her parents got, wind that I had a kid, and not thinking I was doing the same thing my father was doing to me, I was doing to my kid. And I didn't see my kid for 13 years because my ex-wife had such a resentment towards me that I didn't get to see him till I was 16, and that was after I had gotten married to my second wife. My second wife became my hostage. She didn't drink, she didn't drug, she had 2 drinks, she was on the floor. So I made up for what she didn't do, and and carried, we'd go, we really didn't get out much. I remember reading the big book, the chapter 9, The Family Afterwards, when I'll get to that, but I put her through hell for 17 years of drinking and drugging and promising I'm going to quit. I promise I won't. I'm done. After the first drunk driving in 1981, I got stopped for drunk driving, and I remember the state trooper said, me and you are going to become pals, and I had to come to this building back in 81 upstairs.
Really?
for one of the classes they had here. So I had to come for like 8 weeks, and then I got my license back. So, you'd think you'd catch on that, you shouldn't drink and drive, but it was just it was so normal for me to be drinking and drugging and doing the things, you're not supposed to kind of do. But I remember times when, we weren't, the ex-wife would be like, you think you can stop now? And I'd be like, oh, I'll try, I'll see what happens, and then another, I'd hit another roadblock somewhere along the line, and, I'd promise again, I just kept promising the second wife. I just kept making these promises over and over and over that, I'm going to try. So I just hide the stuff and then, and not let it be, let her see it or know and try to hide it. But so I took it to my truck, and I'd go to customers' houses and, do jobs and things like that. And I'd be so amazed that I'd get jobs, and I'd be like stoned out of my head, and I'd leave there, and I'd be like, what did I just do? I know they said they wanted me to do the job, and, I was underbidding myself, and, sometimes I go way overbidding myself, and, it's just totally out of control, but it just never, I mean, it catches up to me now, and I see it, I see what I was doing, but at the time I didn't see any of it. I just was like, I thought
Denial?
I don't think it was denial. I think it was just, I thought I was doing the right thing, because that was the way I was brought up. I saw, my family do it. I saw my uncle do it. And, as long as I figured as long as the kids had new clothes to go to school every day, they were coming home to dinner, and I was paying the rent and trying to keep the bills paid. But towards the end, it caught up with me big time. I remember in 2004, the ex-wife had just about had enough, and 2005, she threw me out. I got into a fight with her brother over something. I bought a new motorcycle, and all this, and kind of she didn't want me to, and I did it anyhow, and you know how that goes. So, excuse me. So I just always did what I wanted to, because I felt as though I'm doing the right thing. The kids are happy, and this and that, but not realizing that they needed their dad at hockey. And I'd go to the hockey game, the baseball game. I'd be sitting in my truck smoking weed, or during the period, first period, the second period intermission, I'd go out to the truck, smoke a joint, have a couple of sips in my truck. I'd go back in, and I was the belligerent father on the stands, and never realized it, never even saw it or nothing. And, so I put them through hell, so to speak, and they got tired of that. And then, my ex-wife and stuff was kind of like fed up with it, so to speak, and so I got into a fight with her brother, and she come outside and started screaming, "You're out of here, you're out of here." And I'm like, "What do you mean I'm out of here? I'm done, I can't take this no more. You just pack your stuff and go." And so I said, okay. So I had my Home Depot suitcases, the trash bags, and I had 6 of those, and threw a bunch of my, business stuff in the bags and stuff, and threw it all in my truck, and went to my garage I had, and parked my truck, and I went to sleep. And I slept there for about 4 nights. And then she come by one night and said, "Why don't you come home? I don't want you sleeping here anymore. The kids, you can't do this." And I said, "Well, as long as we're going to get back together." She said, "No, we're not getting back together." So I said, "Well, I don't know if I really want to come home then. What's the sense of coming home? Well, you can't sleep out here. You need to take a shower. You need to clean up." And so I said, "Okay, I'll come home." So I took a shower. I slept on the couch that night. Stayed for like the next day. I got up and I said, "This ain't going to work for us." And she goes, "No, it's not." And I said, "Well, I'm out of here. I'm gone." So I just took everything back and went back to the garage and sleep in there for a while. And then my son, my first son from my first marriage, his mother, Pat, I'll never forget her. She turned around and said, my son called me, she said, "Grandma's got a room for you at the house here." Because she had an apartment over at Jefferson Park, and she had 4 bedrooms, so she had a bed and everything. So I went over there, and she says, what's wrong? And I said, I can't quit. I can't stop. I can't stop drinking. I want to quit the drugs. I was doing OxyContins, I was doing Percocets, I was doing Coke, I was weed. That song where I get up in the morning, I smoke 2 joints, and then I smoke 2 joints at night. Oh, that was me. That was just 100% me. I was just constantly, just all day long. I mean, I go to work, I come home every hour and a half, and I'd have to have a couple of more Percocets or another couple of OxyContins. I had to have a sip of Southern Comfort to wash them down, So I don't know how I functioned, but I did.
You're lucky to be alive,
I don't know why I'm still here. Yeah, I say that to myself. God had
Had a plan for you.
Yeah, I just didn't realize what the plan was. So
You had a tough life.
yeah, so it kept going on, and then when I started getting into, when I started realizing that I had to do something, then I got into trouble with the ex-wife. We got into a little argument, domestic thing. She wanted to drop the charges, but the court wanted to press the charges.
Right.
But, she said he didn't do nothing serious. He just yelled and screamed and, blah, blah, blah. And the kids got scared and this and that. I mean, I was a pretty tough kid growing up, and a lot of kids in Somerville knew me at the time and knew growing up, what kind of damage I could do or whatever. But today it's just, I think back and I said, it really wasn't me. I was just doing because of alcohol and drugs was controlling my life, and I didn't realize it. So we got into the fight with her brother, and she come out and threw me out of the house and blah, 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 on with that. And then 3 months later, I started finding out she was seeing somebody, and that's why I said that the big book, chapter 9, when you read it, it says a lot of the things like she couldn't have her friends over the house because I was in the basement smoking weed, and the weed was come up from the basement to the first floor apartment with it, so the house was always smelling. Nobody knew what kind of mood I was in, because when I was on oxys, I got kind of hyper and mean and stuff like that. I could tear a house apart, put it back together as long as you left me alone. And then, so there was always that, didn't know what kind of mood I was gonna be in. So we never had people over. Well, she never did. So then, she ended up I wasn't being there for her like I should have been. I wasn't doing telling her I love her and this and that, or being part of the family. I wasn't taking care of the kids the way I should have been, like a real father should have been doing. I thought I was doing okay, but really deep down I wasn't for them. So I just kind of moved, she had enough. And that's when she had the reason to throw me out, and she had backup, so to speak, and I was out. So like I said, 3 months later, we got into a little argument, went to court, and my lawyer, the judge turned around to my lawyer, well, we're going to put him on probation, we're going to have a 2-year restraining order, and da-da-da-da-da, and I think, and the prosecutor turns around to the judge and says, well, he has an alcohol problem and a drug habit, and that's what we have in our notes. And my lawyer said, well, Your Honor, Steve's going to AA. He's been going to meetings, but if the judge ever knew I was drinking when I was going to those first few meetings, he would have, it wouldn't have been too cute. He would have probably told me to do 90 days or something. But anyhow, he says, well, just continue it as you're doing it. And I think that's when it kind of clicked to me for something. Something didn't sound right, but it sounded right. So, a couple of weeks later, I had to do anger management class in October 5th, 2005. October 6th, I got into an argument with Mr. Bailey. He's a great guy. Taught me a lot about anger management, and I taught him a few things. How alcohol does play an effect in it. Because you think you're Superman, when you're somebody special, when and you got that power behind you, that you don't see the consequences, you avoid them when you're drinking and drugging. So we got into an argument, and I was going to go outside and fight him, and told him to thank God we're in a police station, because that way you get help, because they call an ambulance quicker for you, So And I thought I was all that, and that's how I, lived my life. So that next day, October 6th, I was sitting in my desk. Well, the weirdest, I think they tell you in the program that you have a spiritual awakening. And I had and before this kind of happened, and the day that, like maybe 3 days before the ex-wife threw me out, I had that spiritual awakening. I just never realized what it was. And what it was is I went downstairs, I had this, this and that on the desk, I took a couple of these, and then I smoked this. And I decided I got tired, so I figured I'd take a nap. So when I took the nap, I was dreaming that I had a dream that I was in a hole, and it was 6 feet deep, 3 feet wide, and I was in a casket, and I had a glass top on it, like a plexiglass top to it. And my 3 sons are on the top up here, and they're throwing dirt down on me. And I'm laying in the, like flat out straight, and I'm trying to yell that I'm not dead, I'm not dead. And they're up there saying, he finally did it, he finally did it. And when my son, Nick, chokes me up, but he threw the last shovel full of dirt, it covered my eyes. And that's when I woke up. And I looked, and I woke up, and I'm like soaking wet. I mean, absolutely, like I took a shower, but I was freezing cold. And I looked at the desk, and the first words I said is, God, what have I done to myself? And that's when I took the trash can and went like this, threw everything in, and put everything, that's when I decided I got to do something for some reason. And then, then it's throwing me out and all that. Moving into my ex-mother-in-law's house, I kept her up till 2 o'clock in the morning smoking her Benson and Hedges. I'd smoke a whole packet, and I'd be crying my eyes out. I wasn't doing the drugs, but my ex-wife was working on the bar, so during the day I could go get a few drinks and just kind of take the edge off. And the alcohol was, you're just substituting kind of, but so that's how I got into the argument with her, because we were supposed to go out, and I found out she was seeing somebody and blah, blah, blah. But then, so October 6th was when I had an awakening that the alcohol's doing it to me, and I can't keep drinking. And I had a bottle of Galliano, and I just took it, poured it out in the sink, put the empty bottle in the fridge, and so that way there, I said, this will be a reminder that this is what happens. So, I went on to October 7th was my first 24-hour chip at St. Clemens. And so I started my process, so to speak. And then the following day, Sunday, was my first time at church in a long, long time. I never had my sacraments, my confirmation, so I wanted to do it as an adult, so I went to the adult class. So I had these 3 things like in 3 or 4 days, So I was like, oh, maybe this will help me. And amazingly, it did. I mean, after about 6 months, after about 6 months, I started getting the program for the anger management. Me and Mr. Bailey started getting on. I could read people when they came in the room. I got my 6-month chip. I was given my first month chip to my son, second and third month. When I didn't get my 4th month chip, my son says, aren't you going to AA? I said, well, they don't give you one every month. Some groups do, but some don't. My group gives it to you, now it's 6 months, 9 months, and then a year. So at the 6-month time, he was waiting for his chip. So, because he used to take him home and show him to his mother. See, Dad is doing it, But after that, I got into the program, started doing the church, started reading about God and getting them back into my life again, because they said you got to get a higher power. At the time, like before all this, my higher power was my grandmother at the grave. I'd say, when you're talking to the big guy upstairs, tell him, do me a favor, I need this or I need that. It was always what I needed. And that's how I used to talk to her at the grave. And so when I got to be, just before I graduated, I ended up graduating from getting my sacraments, my confirmation, and I ended up getting baptized because I couldn't find my baptism record. So they wanted to baptize me at St. Clement's. So they put the white robe on me and everything. So I'm up in the altar, and my kids thought I was going to become a priest. So that's what they said. Dad, did you become a priest today? I said, no, that's what you had to wear to get baptized. You had to be in all white. And I said, oh my God, we thought you were going to become a priest and blah, blah, blah. So I said, no, I'm just trying to do the right thing. And that's what I kept telling them. So meanwhile, before I graduated from anger management class in 8 months after starting in October, somewhere around there, I had that dream again in my new little apartment because my ex-mother-in-law got me an apartment in Reading. And I don't know how she did it, but she told the guy that, oh, he's a great guy, let him come up, he'll take care of your place, he's really a good guy, he really is a good guy. And that's what she used to always tell me, you're a really good guy, Steve, you just don't know it. And here she is telling this guy, my new landlord, that I'm a really good guy. So I moved in 2 weeks ahead of time, and he knocked on the door and gave me the key, and I said, do you want some money for the rent? She says, no, whatever that lady is, she says, you're a really good guy, you can have these 2 weeks for free, and on the first of the month you pay me the rent. I said, okay, fine. So that's what I did, and I ended up living in Reading for almost a year. And little place, and that's, my first year of getting sober and stuff, I just wanted to get sober. I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I just wanted to stay sober and listen to everybody. And that's what I did. My first sponsor used to say, listen to learn, learn to listen. And I used to read it backwards and forwards all the time, and that and the Serenity Prayer. And
That you have on your own.
yeah, I actually have it. With my
10/7/2005.
Yeah. I had that put on
I'm proud of you.
last year. I did that, I think last year or the year before, because I ended up getting all the Mason symbols here for Shriners and stuff.
It is amazing, all
so.
the things that he's done after his journey.
Well, that spiritual awakening came back to me, and after I went through all this stuff, I dreamt I was in the same hole and everything, and the casket was there, and the kids were throwing the dirt on me. And this time I could yell, I could scream. I actually broke out of the casket. I climbed out of the hole. And all I remember is my 3 sons like standing there looking at me and said he finally did it. And I said, I told you that I would. And behind that was this big, huge glow of white light. And that's when I realized God entered my life. And then God has a funny way of playing games with you, but tricks on you sometimes. I ended up teaching Sunday school for 5 years. After that, so at St. Clement's, I had a great time. The kids I see today, they still call me Mr. Steve. So it's really amazing. But
just think of what happened to you your whole life. You being a little boy and not really having parents that cared about you, and then ending up with this woman that was like you were Cinderella. To them. You're the one that took care of everything. And it's amazing when you look at it. Cinder Boy. You're not Cinderella.
Cinder Boy.
And how could you not go for something to try to dull the pain? And between that and being in North Carolina and 4 years old and getting the taste of liquor already. I know back in the 70s, it was a time that a lot of people drank. They didn't think about, drinking and driving and all that. It was the thing to do because it was legal, and everybody used to come over and, even I remember having like christenings and having, a keg.
Yeah, New Year's parties and Christmas parties and birthday parties. It was always alcohol around, and everybody was sneaking or sipping or drinking.
Right.
It wasn't,
But as the years went on and people realized that there was a problem, more and more you see, like if you come, I don't drink. I quit 5 years ago.
Oh, awesome.
As I said to myself, why do you drink? And you said, well, you're socializing. And you don't want to eat because you don't want to gain weight. But then you'll start to drink and then you eat anyway. So you know what? It's time to just say see you later. And if you want to buy me a drink, buy me a water. You know, and you have to think of it that way. And like you said to me a little while ago, you said you didn't think you would live, not drink past 14 minutes.
Yeah.
Or
No,
14
when I first went into the meeting, it was like, I had a few nips before, a few sips of something before I went in. I did that for a couple of weeks, and then until I finally put the drink down. But my first sponsor, I got a hold of him. Finally got a hold of me, and I asked him. He became my boyfriend, as we say. He told me, just listen to learn to listen, and it's like, she says, you were drinking. I said, yeah. He says, well, don't do it anymore. He says, you want to get the program, you don't drink, just for today. I said, all right. And I said, he says, because I used to sit in the back, and nobody would sit next to me. There'd be like 2 or 3 chairs here and 2 or 3 chairs there. And I said, I thought everybody knew me. He says, yeah, they know you, but they don't want to sit near you because you're drinking. And I said, he says, you'll figure it out someday. And I said, okay. It wasn't long after that when I really started getting sober, about a year later, I think, or maybe not even a year later. This guy come in to the room, and everybody just kind of moved away from him. And I sat there, and I could smell the alcohol. I could see it. I could see myself. And what I did is I said, dude, why don't you sit right here? Sit right next to me. And that's what I did. And that was like the first person I kind of like offered to help, so to speak. And But since then, I've done a lot for the program. I've been on the steering committee a couple of times in Boston. I've been a delegate for a long time for my couple of groups. I'm now the treasurer at one of my groups. I just didn't think I'd want to get, I helped someone get a year one time. I answer the phone when people call me. I call my sponsor whenever I can. Like they say, it's 90 meetings in 90 days. It's 90 meetings in 90 days, but it's different meetings. You don't have to do the same one all the time. Some people kind of, I think, get a little messed up with that. They say, well, I got to do 90 meetings. I got to come here for 90 straight days. No, go find another meeting. Go to another meeting every day. Do a different one every day. And then when you find one that you kind of like, and you like the people, make that your meeting. Make that the one you really want to go to. And that's kind of what I did in the beginning, and I finally hooked up with St. Clemens because I knew I was close to home, and I knew some of the people that would come in and out of there. My sponsor was there. So if you just, I think the biggest thing for me was, my sponsor said, Steve, you got to believe in yourself. And he says, you got to go home, get up every morning, look in the mirror, and try to smile at the mirror. And it's like, yeah, you're crazy, along with kneeling and all this, you want me to do all this and that, pray to God. But I found that if I started really believing in myself, that I could do this, and I'd get up in the morning, I'd go to the mirror in the bathroom. It was a little mirror like this, and I'd just kind of like peek over, and that's what I did. I mean, I couldn't smile at myself in that mirror, and I couldn't say I love you. Yeah, I couldn't say I love you to myself in that mirror, and as long as if I tried to do it every day, eventually I got more and more into the mirror, and the more and more I got into the program, the more and more I was into the mirror. And I remember one day looking at the mirror and having such a big smile on my face that I swear I could have cracked the mirror with just the smile I had. And
you made it.
Yeah, I knew I made it when I got out of that hole, and I saw my 3 sons and God behind them. I knew I was on the right track. And I just never realized that, almost 14 years later, I've been answering the hotline in Boston for 10 years now on Sunday nights. I go in around 4, leave around 8. But I've been doing that for 10 years. And it's like I wouldn't miss that. I had one guy call me up one night, and it was an older gentleman. He says, I got a 6-pack and I want to drink it. And I said, well, if you're going to drink it, I can't talk to you. He goes, what do you mean? I said, I don't want to talk to an alcoholic, and I don't want to be talking to you while you're drinking, because I ain't drinking. So if I ain't drinking, you can't drink. He goes, well, that makes sense. He says, when I get off the phone, I'm going to drink this. I said, no, you're not. He says, what do you mean? I said, when you get off the phone talking to me, I said, you ought to get like a big book or a book and read it. And he says, really? And he says, what book should I get? So I told him a few different books, like the big book, Living Sober, and Daily Reflections. I said, read that every day. So we talked for about another 20 minutes. He said, my wife's going to kill me. I said, your wife ain't going to kill you if you don't drink. He goes, you think? I said, yeah, I know. She won't say nothing. She'll be happy if you don't drink the rest of that six-pack. She's going to be happy with you. So that was the end of the conversation. So we ended up having this dinner, and Tom from the bookie room come up to me and he says, Steve, I wanted to let you know that about a month or so ago, a guy came in and said, Steve from the phones on a Sunday night saved my life. And I'm here to pick up these books he told me to get. So, it's like, it's just things like that happen during your sobriety. I mean, it doesn't change.
It's a good feeling.
Yeah, it is a good feeling. But, the things that I've accomplished since I've been sober, matter of fact, my 10th grandchild was born today. 10th one, yeah.
Wow.
I have 3 boys, and between them I got 4 grandkids. I have 2 stepchildren that have 6, so I got 10. So it's pretty cool. He called me.
Just think, there might have been a point where you
I wouldn't even have dawned, it wouldn't even have fazed me that I had a grandchild born today if I was drinking. There's no way. That drink was more important to me, or that drug was more important to me than anything, because that's how I coped with life. That's how I dealt with it. And until I realized that there's nothing you have to deal with or to cope with life, because it's all right in front of you. If you just give yourself the opportunity or the chance to believe in yourself, that you can do it. If you believe and you keep believing and keep talking to yourself, and even if you can't really connect with the higher power, connect with something that's higher than you. Like I used to do it with my grandmother, not realizing I was actually connecting with a higher power until, I went to, until I realized that God was, the one I needed to be with. Once I connected with Him, slowly but surely, things really turned around, I remember, when my ex-wife first threw me out, I owed the IRS a ton of money, never realized it. I was overdrawn, a shitload of money, so to speak, in the bank accounts and stuff. And I was at rock bottom. I was totally right there. I was done. But I didn't believe it because the alcohol told me I didn't have to worry about it.
Absolutely.
But once I started getting sober, believing in myself and giving myself a chance to try it, just give it a shot. And once I did that, things really turned around. Everything started to change. It took me a couple of years. I straightened out all the bills. I straightened out the accounts. I bought a house while I was sober. I've had 7 more grandkids since I've been sober. My son that didn't talk to me for 3 years, when I first started getting sober, we got a good connection now. It's amazing if you just give it a chance, just try it, It's like, Mikey said, try it, you'll like it, but, and it's true, you just got to try it, but you got to stick with it, and that's why you get a sponsor. You get a sponsor because of those. I remember my sponsor one day, he was at a meeting and I was getting one of my chips. He turned around and I had him speak, and he says, oh yeah, he says, yep, Steve called me 28 times one day. And I answered the phone every time he called. He was having this problem, but it was 28 times. He says, the only reason why I know it was 28 times, because I had to delete all my phone messages. So that was, but it's someone like that, you try to find a sponsor, someone you can talk to. I told him everything, I told him my whole life. Whatever was happening to me at that moment, I'm tired. I got to do something. I got to have, no, you don't. What are you going to do that for? If you do that, then you're just going to have to start all over again. I said, well, that's true. I don't really feel like starting all over again. I've gotten this far and blah, blah, blah. So he'd always try to talk me out of it, or always say, well, I've done that. It doesn't work, so try to do it again. And that's one of the things when I go to meetings and stuff. I like hearing, not that I like to hear it, I really, it saddens me that people can have so many years and then go back out thinking that they're cured and this and that, and then, you know, a few years later they're right back again, starting over. And those are the kind of stories that make me see that it ain't no good out there. It doesn't change. No matter how much you think it's going to change, no matter how much, well, you know, I can have one. Well, one is going to get you drunk. One's going to ruin your life. One's going to be the end of you. And it doesn't matter if it's one drink, one pill, whatever.
So how many years has it been?
It'll be 14 October 7th, one day at a time. And that's how I live my life, one day at a time. It's totally one day at a time. It's no joke. It's just, I don't worry about yesterday. I think about today, and tomorrow, it's not here yet, so why bother? You know?
A lot of people always worry about the future.
Yeah, the future's, you can't predict it. I mean, you can make plans to go to this party, or you're going to do this on this date, you know, do trips and stuff like that, but your average day-to-day thing is always going to be different than what you actually think of the day before. So why worry about it? Let it get here first. Main thing is, just don't drink for today. Don't drug for today. That's all you got to think about. The
So
rest
you're
of it,
abstinent.
yeah. So you're actually, everything else will fall into place the next day. And as long as you've done the right thing the first day, the day before, the next day you're going to do the same thing. So it's only going to get better, and it has, and it will. But you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe in
And you could be, how many things are you doing now? This man is amazing. The people that he's helping and working with is amazing. We're both Lions together.
Yeah, I've been doing, like I said earlier, I've been doing since, you know, the Boston. I've been doing that for 10 years. I've been in the program for 14. Also a Mason since 1995, Freemason. I became a Mason. I went into the Scottish Rite in 95 in Boston. Then I became a Shriner in 1996 with the Shrine Burns Institute, one of the volunteers that do things to help people to raise money for the hospitals. And became an assistant director there for the director staff, and now I'm the membership chairman of the Aleppo Shriners in Wilmington. I'm also the director of the director staff. I've been doing that since 2013. I've been doing the membership chairman for the last 3 years. And I just became master of my lodge. I've been two years at one lodge before. Now I've just been elected master of the lodge in Scimitar Lodge in Wilmington. And I have 5 new candidates coming in next month, which is really exciting. You know, a lot of ritual, a lot of things to do. And I know that if I was drinking and drugging, I wouldn't be doing these things. I wouldn't even.
But you're actually keeping yourself busy.
That's what that's what my sponsor says. You do a lot, and my answer to him is that, excuse me, it keeps me out of trouble. If I do things that I like to do, which I do. I mean, I have a race car at home I've been building. I have a hot rod truck I run my own business. I've been doing that since '81.
So you can't be idle.
No, if I'm idle, I don't know. It's like I tell people like that I try to sponsor. If you're sitting there and you're thinking stupid, you're going to do something stupid.
Right.
So why not do something that's going to keep you from thinking stupid? Because as soon as you start thinking that, oh, geez, nothing to do. Maybe I'll crack open a beer. Just take something that'll calm me down, or this or that. Now you're not thinking for yourself. You're not, you're letting the power of the alcohol and the drugs take over your life again. And as long as I'm trying to do something, I don't.
Might as well do something for good.
Right, exactly. Do a good thing. Do a good deed every day. Try to help somebody else. Like that movie Pay It Forward. My sponsor made me watch that, and I think that kind of caught on to what it meant. I really did, and I think that's what I try to do today. I try to pay forward what's been so freely given to me. why not give it to somebody else that needs it too, and try to help them? If you don't, we're all going to be in the same boat eventually. You're just going to go back out there again. You're going to wind up in the same place. You don't want that. Once you, like I said, get a sponsor, get a little bit of time, do your 90-day meetings, pick one you like, go to it. You can do as many meetings.
Which one do you like?
I like St. Clemens. I've been going there since I started, and but I do go on, like commitments and stuff like that. I like AA. NA is great, but AA seemed to work the best for me. That seemed to be the.
That's good.
That's.
I'm going to tell you something about. In 2013 is when we started Somerville Overcoming Addiction.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to start a group. And I had gone to Alcoholics Anonymous, AA, I've been to NA, I've been to Learn to Cope.
Mm-hmm.
I've been to an awful lot of different programs to try to like mold one
Mm-hmm.
for Somerville. And the thing is that I really think that I like Mercy Street, which is having everybody
Mm-hmm.
be a part of one meeting instead of having you all separate.
Mm-hmm. Well, AA was like that in the beginning. They didn't let that's why they started NA. But when you read the 12 steps and the 12 traditions, when you read the NA, you see a lot of the AA is in the NA. It kind of mix, you know what I mean? It's just that they reword it a little bit differently. And I started noticing that. I'm like, I'm getting the same thing here, and they didn't want to mix, but now it's like we do have people that I identify as an alcoholic drug addict because that's what I am. Why am I going to go to a meeting to say, oh, I'm an alcoholic, and then I'm going to go over here and say that, oh, I'm a drug addict? I remember when I was by myself, if I had alcohol, I was having a party by myself, and if I didn't have alcohol, I had drugs, I was having a party by myself. If I had both of them together, I was by myself, and I was having a great time. So why can't we, like, everybody just find a place you like, find a group you like, find, something that will help you to get better. And if you find, AA does it, or NA, or a mixed group, or whatever, go for it. I think just being, I know some meetings I've gone to and I've said I'm an alcoholic drug addict, and people said, this is Alcoholics Anonymous. And I said, if it wasn't for Alcoholics Anonymous, I'd still be a drug addict. So they don't know what to say to me then. Because if it wasn't for Alcoholics Anonymous, who knows what I would have done. I didn't really care for
You may not have been here.
I didn't really care for I liked the NA meetings, but I really didn't care for them. But I liked the AA meeting because it's just it's a little bit different atmosphere, a little bit different. I used to go with a friend, a girl that I used to go with. She liked the NA meeting, so I'd go with her. But then we just we realized that AA was good for us, so we used what was good for us. But you do got to try the other ones. But if you find that you're just happy with just doing one, then just do the one, and then that helps you. As long as it's helping you to get better and be a better person, stick with it. It's just like your sponsor. If you got a sponsor and you find out like 3 or 4 months down the road that, oh, he really ain't doing this for me, or she ain't doing this for me, and get another one. There's all kinds of people out there that will help you. All you got to do is ask. It's like if you're a newbie.
But in the end, you got to do it for yourself.
Right. You still got to do it for yourself. But it's nice to have somebody there that will help you get along and show you the way. Like my first sponsor, I remember one night we were in, his father had passed away, and I was getting divorced, and we were at the Somerville Hospital in the parking lot hugging each other and crying. And if anybody walked by, they would have thought something weird was going on. But that's how we bonded. We ended up getting really close that way. And he gave me a coin that I keep on my keychain, and it says, on the front of it says, change your attitude. And then on the back of it says, change your attitude, change your world. And that dawned on me that my attitude had to change. My attitude towards drinking and drugging had to change. My attitude towards people had to change. my attitude towards my kids. So it was the perfect coin for me at the time. It was like 3 or 4 months I was into the program, and he gave me that. And I still have it today. Still have that on my keychain.
Can you believe that our hour is almost up?
Really? I'm sorry I talked so long.
No, that's good.
Okay. I mean, I hope I helped somebody. You know, if you know, just called Boston on Sunday nights. I'm usually there. If I'm not there, just ask for me.
What's the phone number?
You know, you got to stump me on that one.
Well, what is it called so they can...
It's Alcoholics Anonymous.
Okay.
It's the hotline, Central Services in Boston. Call there. They have help there from 9 to 9 through the week. Saturdays and Sundays, it's usually 12 to 9. I'm there on Sundays, and if you'd really like to, you know, like someone to talk to, I don't have to be a sponsor, I don't have to be a boyfriend, but I can help you. You know, I'll answer whatever question you ask. You know, I don't beat around the bush. There's a lot of people that have sponsors like, you're really hard. And I said, well, what do you want me to make this an ice cream cake for you or something? You know, it ain't easy. Don't think it is. You got to put a lot of time into it, and you got to really want to do it. And the main thing is believe that you can do it, that you yourself are going to make it happen.
Right.
And everybody else will fall into place.
Absolutely. I'm going to say something to you.
Mm-hmm.
A long time ago, I realized, well, I used to go to classes and all, like Dale Carnegie and whatnot. And the one thing you do have to realize is that the only person that can help you is you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's good to have a sponsor and
Mm-hmm.
that helps you get through that rough time.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing in the end, you have to love you.
Mm-hmm. That's
And, you know, and it's not everything that you do. If you did something that you're not happy with, apologize for it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you are the only person that can take care of you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you look back and you think about all these things that you've done, looking in that mirror and saying, you can do this,
Mm-hmm.
that you're all right. I love me.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're supposed to do because you're the only one that can do it for you.
Right. And
And like I said before, you get to that point, you have to do what you did and also have a sponsor.
you got to have some help in the beginning. You don't try to, you know, you can do, you know, I mean, I did cold turkey by myself. I don't recommend it, you know, getting off the oxys and the drugs, but you know, but if you can get some help, get it. But if you want to try to do it, do it. But make sure you got someone you can talk to. I mean, I had my ex-mother-in-law. I talked to her every night. And there'd be cold sweats. I'd be shaking, rock and rolling and everything. But I didn't do anything because she kept telling me I was a good person. I was a good person. I was a good guy. And you just got to...
You didn't feel that way about yourself.
No, I didn't. I thought my world was over. I thought I was done, and who cares where I was going to end up. But once I realized that, you know, 14 years ago, that I had a lot to still go for. I still had a lot to learn. And look at the things I do today. It's
I'm going to
incredible.
actually say good night, and you are a good person.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you
Really.
for coming on. And,
no
and
problem.
I'd love to be able to go and see your meeting someday. I'm going to go shut this off. Good night, everyone. And this is on YouTube, so you can always watch it.